there friends, and welcome to my video. Today I'm showing my latest project, this pattern number 8044 from McCalls for side buttoning skirt. I really like the look of this skirt and I had a fabric in my stash I could use it. For this one I'm going to be making view C, which has a ruffle alongside the bottom. I got this fabric from Joann's and it has a really lovely light blue color and has a nice feel to it. It's a bit too light to wear for colder weather, so it was definitely a race to get this skirt done while I could still wear it before it gets too cold out. The first thing I do after picking out my pattern fabric that I'm going to use is to get the pieces that I need for the view that I'm making. As I mentioned, I'm going to be making view C of this pattern, which has a ruffle alongside the bottom. Once I have all the pieces of the pattern that I'm using for this view, I give them a light press with my iron on a low setting so that it gets all the harsh creases out of the paper and lies more accurately on top of the fabric. Once I have all my pattern pieces pressed, I lay out my fabric and get ready to cut it. I put down my pattern pieces and weigh them with these metal washers that I got from Home Depot. They work great as pattern weights and they weren't really expensive. Once the pattern's secure, I go in with my rotary cutter and trim out all the pieces. Of course, for some pieces, I do go in with my good old-fashioned scissors as well. Now, somehow this piece had come out kind of wonky when I cut it. It didn't really lay right and match up with the pattern, but thankfully I had enough of the fabric that I could cut an additional piece. Now that I have all the pattern pieces cut out, it's time to get sewing. Before using my sewing machine, I also go ahead and change out the thread cones on my serger. This is a bit tedious and I've tried every kind of trick to quickly and easily do it, but I end up just kind of doing it all from scratch. Here's the interfacing that I'll be using with this fabric. It's made for lightweight, so it'll work great. The first part that I interface is going to be the plackets for the buttons and buttonholes. As you can see, I kind of Frankenstein two pieces together, and I'm also not using a pressing cloth, so don't do what I did right there. I got very lucky and didn't ruin my iron, but better be safe than sorry. Once I have those pieces interfaced, I go ahead and serge the raw edges with my serger. The one side is done, and now the other. Just look how nice and neat that is. Gosh, I love my serger. Once those raw ends are serged, I go ahead and fold over the bottoms and stitch those. Now that those parts are done, I go ahead and lay out the main skirt piece for the back and then lay the left and right sides on top of it to stitch together, right sides together. I'm using pins to hold this together, although usually I'll also use clips that my mom got me for Christmas. They really come in handy, but sometimes pins just really do the trick, especially with thinner, delicate fabrics like this one. Now that the main skirt pieces are pinned together, I'm going to go and sew down each side of the skirt, matching notches. Once I have the side seam stitched, I also go ahead and use my serger to close up the raw edges of the seams and give it a nice press. As you can see, it looks so nice and crisp. Next piece is the waistband. I go ahead and lay down the main back piece for the waistband and attach the other pieces matching the notches at the sides. Once I have those ends pieced together, I'm going to go ahead and sew those up. And once they're sewn, I also give those a good press after serging the raw edges of the seams. I forgot to mention that there's two pieces of the waistband. One side is interfaced, the other is not. Right now this is the non-interface side. I'm going to go ahead and pin that to the main skirt pieces, matching notches and seams. Once again, using pins to secure, I made this little wrist pin cushion and it has come in handy so much. Once the waistband is stitched to the skirt, once again, stir the raw edges and give it a nice press, pressing the seams towards the waistband. Once that's done, I interface the remaining waistband pieces and sew up the side ends just as I did with the other pieces. Once that's done, I press down the upper edge of the waistband pieces. This is going to be folded over and sewn to the main skirt piece. Once that upper edge is folded and pressed nice and neat, it's time to attach it to the main skirt pieces. So I'm going to get my waistband and get the non-folded lower side of the waistband and attach that to the skirt, matching side seams and notches. And here it is, all pinned together, nice and neat, everything matched up precisely. I don't usually do hand sewing, but I decided to hand stitch the outer edge of the waistband just so it'd be less noticeable from the outside and look a lot neater. You can definitely see I don't do a lot of hand stitching, but it works, so I'm fine with it. And now for the ruffle. Go ahead and get the ruffle pieces, stitch the short ends together, once again serging the raw edges of the seam. Do a narrow hem on the bottom and sides. I used my serger to serge the raw edges and then just folded that over and stitched it. Next, I do a gathering stitch by changing a straight stitch to the longest stitch settings, and here you can see it all gathered up nice and neat. I just kind of skipped over the details on that one. But if you've done gathering before, you'll know what I did. And here it is, the ruffle stitched to the bottom. Everything's nice and neat. All that's left to do is add buttons and do the buttonholes. Though when I held it up to my hips, it was kind of large, so I'm going to get a piece of elastic and stitch into the back of the waistband. Here is the piece of elastic. It's about 1.5 inches to 2 inches shorter than either side of the back waistband piece, so I'm just going to unpick the hand stitches, feed that elastic in, and then stitch it in place. So here I just kind of put it in and pinned it so I could give it like a little test before I stitch it in, and it really improved the fit, and I don't think it really makes the skirt look that wonky or weird in the back, so it works. Now that the fit is determined, I go ahead and stitch down either side of the elastic just so it doesn't bunch up. And there is one row of stitching on the elastic. And the second row of stitching along the elastic. And here's how it looks. I think it has a nice gathered effect. I think it turned out really swell. And now it's time to stitch the buttons and buttonholes along the outside. Luckily I got a lot of buttons to choose from, but after sorting I decided to go with these white ones. I think they're just plastic and have a nice matte finish and work really well with the blue color. And then here is the final skirt. I didn't really put a super great outfit together just because I had a bit of a cold I was getting over, but I think it turned out really great. I love the twirl factor it has, the gathering in the back from the elastic, and I think it's just a really great skirt overall. I got to wear it a few times before it got too cold outside, but overall I really love it and can't wait to wear it back when it warms up outside. I know I didn't film all the steps, but I hope you enjoyed the video. Thank you.